It's more intimidating than I expected. And honestly, like I've given this presentation millions of times before. When I walked from Tokyo to Kyoto in 11.5 days, um, I used to give this presentation to all the black bears in the mountains. If you ever walk from Tokyo to Kyoto or all the mountainous area in Japan, you will know that there are signs of black bears that, okay, be aware if you are crossing that area, you need to make sound. That's why they have bear bells. Or you need to talk to someone. The problem with me was that I was just walking by myself. So what I would do is, I was in my imagination like, maybe someday, TEDx might ask me to give a presentation. And I'm not kidding. I was literally like imagining like maybe someday that's gonna happen. So maybe I should, practice now. This is my time. And you won't believe, like I would be literally just by myself walking in the mountains, it's raining, nobody's around. I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I was trying to scare the bears away. And honestly, they kind of avoid you if you're like talking loud and if you're making that bell sound. And that was my practice. But honestly, this is different. So I'm gonna try my level best. Every time when I talk to people about my Tokyo to Kyoto walk, one of the questions that I always get is, and it's like 95 or 98%, this is the question: what shoes did you wear? But the sad thing is, everybody asks me about my shoes, but nobody asks about my socks. Like really, I bought these very high quality, expensive socks, but nobody talks about it. And the reason is I do understand, because we usually tend to see something that is more visual and easy to see. And seeing something that's hidden is hard to question about. And when I was doing this walk, there were some times that I was almost giving up. One time I was on the 5th day, came to this mountain that I was supposed to cross, and there was a tunnel. Now the tunnel took like 10 minutes if I had the way to go from there. But it was blocked, it was under construction. So that day I was supposed to walk 45 kilometers. Every day I had like set the kilometers for myself, like okay. And I was like, today's 45 kilometers and only 10 kilometers were left. And this thing comes in front of me and there was a sign, nobody's allowed. And whenever there was a sign, that means I cannot do it. Otherwise I would have tried some way. But I was like, now it's illegal if I do that, right? Right next to the mountain was this deep blue ocean, and I don't swim. There was a fence in front of the mountain, so I cannot climb. So I had to take this detour, and it took an extra 20 kilometers. So my 45 kilometers walk that day became 65 kilometers. And I still remember I was walking hard because I was scared, because I was in the countryside, it gets dark, I was scared of the wild animals, and I was walking, and I can feel the pain in my feet. I was getting all these blisters, my knees were hurting. I had a bag, and Swint remembers that, he carried my bag. I was like, Sharoon, your bag is more than like 20 kilometers or something, 20 kilogram or something. So it was a heavy bag, my shoulders hurting, and I kept going. And there were times that I was thinking of giving up. I was like, maybe I can take a bicycle ride or something. Little bit of cheating, nobody's like watching me, But then I was like, I will live under this guilt all my life. So I kept going, and when I finished that, I realized what was one thing that made me kept going was, again, the question. It was not the soul, And this is actually the title of my speech today. Is like, it's not your soul, because everybody asks about like, what shoes do you wear, right? It's not your soul, S-O-L-E, but it's your soul, S-O-U-L, right? Because when you come into those kind of situations, your shoes or your brand that you wear is not gonna tell you, hey, go, you can do it. It's the inside of you that will tell you, the mental, your spirit, your resilience, that will tell you, like, keep going. And how I trained for that was, sometimes people say, Sharoon, the toughest walk that you ever did was Tokyo to Kyoto, and actually that's not. My toughest walk was actually from Sangenjaya Station, that's Temple University, Tokyo, to Tokyo Station that I used to do every other Friday before when I was preparing for my Tokyo to Kyoto walk. And I would walk from Sangenjaya Station, where our Tokyo campus is, to Tokyo Station Friday night, and there was a reason for that. You know, Friday night is the night when you're exhausted. You are tired. You want to go out and hang out with your friends and party. And I wanted to do that because I'm tired from the work and I was exhausted, and I would tell myself, no, today is the day that I'm going to walk to Tokyo Station. I'm going to do my best no matter what. And sometimes, honestly, those small challenges are more difficult as compared to walking from Tokyo to Kyoto, or even walking from Tokyo to Hokkaido. Sometimes it's more difficult to wear your shoes and say, oh, I'm going to go out today for a walk or a workout. You know, just getting out of that bed, the run itself is easy. The long walk itself is easy, but just going out and taking the step out of your warm bed, it gets more difficult. And that's where you come soul. That's where you make your mental strong and you're like, I will keep going. And for me, like, every time when I think of these long walks or anything that's challenging for myself, you know, every time when I felt like, oh, I cannot do this, I would try to do that. So when I was preparing for this walk, I tried to walk from Narita to Haneda one time. I walked from Tokyo to Shizuoka one time. And I still remember one time, like, I was walking for 27 hours straight, and one of my friends actually joined me the last few hours. And we were walking in the mountains, right? And I was telling my friend, like, hey, did you hear the sound? And he was like, dude, you're hallucinating now. It's time to go back. But I told him, like, you know, we got to go at least 1 more kilometers. Let me try that 1 more kilometers. You know, when your limit is, you feel like this is the end. That's where when your mental training starts. That's where your soul comes in. And you're like, you're the spirit, that resilience that, no, I can still go ahead. I can still make it work. And this is actually what really helped me when I was walking from Tokyo to Kyoto. And I still remember that when I got to Sangenja Station, to Sanjo Ohashi. So people who do not know, back then people used to walk from Nihonbashi all the way to Sanjo Ohashi. That was like the walk. And there were like 53 stations in between. So they would walk for months and months, because imagine, back then there were no tunnels. So imagine this dad with his 10 kids, because back then people used to have a lot of kids, right? Would go to these mountains and they have to hike, and then they would rest at one station, and then they would walk, and it would take months to get to, you know, Sanjo Ohashi. And I remember that when I came to Sanjo Ohashi, I met these 3 women, and they were rejoicing. They were like, yay! And they were like, excuse me, they asked me, like, can you take a picture of us? And I'm like, do you know who are you asking right now for a picture? It's the guy, Sharoon, who walked from Tokyo to Kyoto, just right now. And they were like, oh, we did the same thing. And I'm like, you know, it was like my punchline. I was trying to get a reaction, but like they were like, oh, we did the same. And like, oh, donagurai kakarimashita? I asked them, like, how long did it take? And they were like, it took us 15 years, 15 or 13 years. I'm like, narigore. And then they were like, because we would go few stations and then we would go back. And then we would come and we would do few stations and we would go back. But for me, what I learned from that was the consistency, the desire to complete this. So sometimes it's not about like just finishing, but continuity of like, oh, we can do it. I can imagine they started when they were in college or something, but they kept going and they did it. So I know that some of you are not interested in walking from Tokyo to Kyoto. Some of you might be. If you are interested, I can tell you what socks and shoes I wear. But we all have some kind of walks in our lives. You might have your own Tokyo to Kyoto. Maybe it's your education that you want to complete. Maybe there's a business that you want to start. And there are so many things that, you know, as young people, you're like students, you have desires. And the way is way longer, right? You feel like, oh, man, can I really do this? Can I really try that? So remember, more than the physical, the outside, it's the mental, if you can train it, you know. Think of anything that in your own zone, like how I can train my mental. How can I train my spirit? Yes, physical is good. You need to be healthy. You need to eat healthy. But how I can train my inner self to complete my goal, to reach to, from Nihonbashi to Sanjo Ohashi. Thank you very much.